Although Crash Bandicoot was a pretty iconic PlayStation platformer back when it was first released in 1996, one may stand back and think that it's just a pretty average platformer game. Certainly looking back on it today, I mean, that would be a fair claim to make. So what really does make this franchise so unique? Well, at a first glance it may be hard to see that, but there are quite a fair few factors to take into account, but I'm mostly pumping for the levels here. There is a surprising amount of creativity pumped into the levels in the Crash Bandicoot games, many of which take after famous time periods, countries, or special gimmicks like vehicle sections that are sometimes fun and sometimes absolute tripe. Like, we're talking hanging yourself levels of frustration. Because of the franchise being about to approach its 20th anniversary this September the 9th, as well as the E3 announcement of the first 3 games getting remakes, I've decided to lay a bit of a countdown tribute to the master marsupial himself. My top 5 Crash Bandicoot levels. I'm only taking entries from the platformers in this franchise, not any of the spin-offs. Spin-offs. Get it? Because he spins. The first Crash Bandicoot didn't do too much in the way of creative level designs, mainly because each level was chained together by a lengthy path on a couple of islands, so it kinda makes sense for them all to be rather cohesive. Still, there is some variety to be found here, it's just that the later games in the franchise would be far zanier with where each place is set. However, there is one level in the first game that would continue to be a favourite type of level for the franchise to bring back again and again, and that is the level Boulders. And Boulder Dash. First off, what the level contains shouldn't exactly come as a surprise for you. It's quite literally what it says on the tin. A mission that'll keep you on your toes as frequently as it'll crush your bones, and your spirit if you keep bumping into those fence posts. The franchise would bring this back for the second game, but then asked itself several times over, how could we make this even scarier?
Bloody polar bear, that's what.
Then for the third game they made it a dinosaur, then they just went completely off the deep end and just brought in things like dragons, rhinos, a tsunami, an avalanche, a fat walrus with a morbidly profound case for the munchies. Although for me, nothing quite holds a candle to the first Boulders stage. It was short, frantic, and yeah. The futuristic levels in Crash 3 are really damn good. Future Frenzy and Gone Tomorrow. They take place in this massive futuristic city, but the platforms you jump around on are kind of floating in mid-air, so falling won't really be a comfy parkour somersault, just more of a death. And I also really like the way that the level goes from a free-moving 3D stage to this 2D side-scrolling one. It gives it a nice hint of variety, a drizzle of diversity. Delicioso. The odd machinery which acts as obstacles keeps the level interesting and fun to navigate. You're really not getting a shortage of the futuristic aspect of these levels, and even then it's all very colourful as well. It's not all this shiny bland grey chrome colour that's dystopian and empty, and feels like some overly sinister music should be playing over the top. This one's more like a kid's colouring book. I could talk for quite a bit defending the fourth Crash game, aka The Wrath of Cortex, but that's not quite relevant except for my comments on the sheer creativity of the levels in this game. I mean, in terms of levels, I think this was on point. There was so much to take in within a single level, like Compactor Reactor or Ghost Town. One of the highlights for me was the inclusion of the Atmosphere, which is this big ball you roll around in, presumably for abnormally large hamsters. You may have seen it in American Gladiators. You have levels that use this idea in a bamboo constructed roller coaster of sorts, which I found pretty awesome at first. And then the levels just get better and better. You have this medieval themed stage, which is pretty nice. And then at the very end of the game, one of the bonus stages is called Solar Bowler, and they just chuck you into space.
Just for the lols, boys, just for the lols.
But personally, Eskimo Roll is where the idea is pretty much just perfect for me. It's basically set in this snowy landscape with many pits and potholes to look out for. It's challenging, definitely. Although the best part for me, the one that just got me so stoked, was seeing the bosses from Crash 3 come back.
I'm so stoked, my dudes.
Tiny the Tiger is goalkeeping some entrances, Dingo Dial is hooning it on his flamethrower, and Entropy is up on this platform using that pesky tuning fork of his. Also, the music here is just fantastic. Catchy, cold, and gives this sense of true danger. And if you look at this level, I'd say it's pretty dangerous, you know what I mean? I wouldn't be that comfortable with hanging around this area with the lads, you feel me? Although, as long as you're not bumping into a nitro crate, you'll be fine. I reckon. Crash and Cortex are essentially two opposing forces, right? Hero and villain. So to have a game that features them teaming up is pretty unusual, but it resulted in Crash Twinsanity, a very excellent game, although it's pretty clear which one has more dominance over the other. And on the box cover art it says that Crash can be spanked? Ho ho ho, mate. Cortex's old lab, however, seems to be shrouded in ice, and this creates the Iceberg Lab. You might argue that the Iceberg Lab and the Ice Climb are two separate levels, but I mean, they're kind of in the same area, so I'm willing to count them as one. I love this cold glacial place with random chunks of machinery just everywhere. It really gives me the image of a once functioning laboratory or factory that is pretty much now frozen over. But some of the machinery still works, so you can, in a very creative manner, use those as a means of navigating and climbing the level. As much as I'm terrified of heights, I love how in this level there are plenty of things going high up and low down, kind of at mid-height, these loads to kind of look out for. And outside the lab there's a point where Cortex joins you and you kind of faff around with him as he blasts penguins to their death. The music in this area is also not one to ignore at all. Of course Crash Twinsanity has an a cappella soundtrack, but this track in particular is just, oh, it's a load of fun. This place really just combines the visuals and the aesthetic of an ice level with the cool obstacles and the machinery of a factory level. But not at all is this the last of the ice levels we'll see on this list. Oh crap, I just gave away the number 1 spot. Bear it. Bear down. Maybe totally bear. Actually no, forget that level, it's in the dark and it's hard to see. You commando roll towards a baby polar bear and suddenly, out of nowhere, it's a fast-paced, icy ride through a snow-covered valley. You have to dodge totem poles, killer whales jumping out of nowhere, seals, some TNT and nitro crates, as well as you try to maneuver across ice when things get a bit slippery. The design of this stage is simple but so very amusing. You're moving just as fast as the obstacles appear, and then getting catapulted right off a cliff at the very end. Could have gone badly if there wasn't a bloody platform there. Come on man, that's a bit uncalled for. These set of levels are essentially some of my all-time favorite in the franchise and in general. They're short and sweet, but they're so fun to play again and again and again. Luckily in Crash 3 they brought in Coco's pet tiger, and over there you can ride her across the Great Wall of China. But the one thing that really does sell the polar bear stages for me though, the music. It's just so jolly, it's upbeat, so fitting for a level that's actually more fun than frigid. In Crash Twinsanity, the polar bear doesn't look too happy about it though.
And at the end of the day, that really does promote an end to this video about Crash Bandicoot.
You know, sometimes when you reflect on a series that was such a huge part of your childhood, it really does make you kind of weep a little bit, knowing that that franchise was in its prime a long time ago, and now it's coming back with full force. When I hear the name of the main character, I start to tear up a little bit.
Tonight on 3 News, a man was recently killed in a car crash on the motorway.
Not Crash, not again.
And as joking I love to be in my videos, I do think it is important to pay a bit of serious homage to a fantastic franchise. So, with all of that said, I am MasterJakeStudios, and I promote an end to this video.